Okay. Alrighty. It's time. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Okay, everyone. All right, so happy Wednesday. Welcome to TechQuitos, our weekly program where we talk a little bit about old technology, its current use, and imagining what we can do in the future with really fun ideas and technology. So I'm Yadira. Super excited that you're here with me today. We have a really fun activity, and it's kind of it's based off of some current news, specifically around the protests that have been happening for a while. Before I get into that, I just wanted to quickly share a couple of things, which I'll probably say at the end too. This is our last week of the TechQuitos program. There's possibility that I will do some more programming over the summer, depending on what's cooking and if I get inspired with some new ideas, and I'll definitely try to figure out ways to share our content with all of the viewers, all of the many, many viewers. So, if you're a student, I'm sure you're excited to get ready for summer, as this is our last week of school. So, what's great about this is all those episodes have been archived. They're saved in YouTube. You can always go back and check out some of the stuff we've done if this is your first time. So, okay, so I guess let's get started. All right. Today's topic, we are going to be talking about facial recognition, specifically software programs. For our activity, we're going to be doing a really cool CV Dazzle Shield, which I know you may have something like this at home, or perhaps even just like a regular face mask for your mouth and nose. That might be a little tricky to do. If I were you, you could get these at any of the bodegas or 99-cent stores for a couple of dollars. So we're going to be working on that a little bit later. But anyway, taking it back to current events. So the reason I chose our topic today is because there's been a lot of demonstrations happening, and also some not so great use of technology. And I'm specifically referring to facial recognition software, which has been used not necessarily in the best of ways, and not necessarily by the best institutions, we shall say. But last week, IBM, which is a huge just a giant tech company, announced that they were going to call it quits on their facial recognition software, and so their stance was that they wanted to stand up for racial equality, and I think that's great. I think a lot of other companies are continuing to use facial recognition software. IBM is one of the first to really come out and state that they are not going to be using it. But there are some criticisms about companies who are saying, "Hey, we're going to do this because we want a more just and fair world." It's also not a particular product that is a lot of money now, because it's becoming a little bit more easier to access or to get. And so there's not a lot of money, I suppose, in these huge tech giants to continue to invest in this particular software. But anyway, that's neither here or there. We know that this kind of software exists. And so I want to talk a little bit more about that, and I'm going to talk a little bit about people who have, or groups who have figured out ways to kind of trick facial recognition. So let's jump right into my little presentation here. Okay. There I am. Okay, cool. So, right, today's topic, CV Dazzle Shields. And if you can see on the bottom there, I've got my example of a shield with some cool shapes that are covering the front. So I hope that gives you a hint as to what we're going to be doing. Let's go down just a second here. So I'm just going to give you a visual of facial recognition software. So what we're really talking about is an algorithm. We're talking about computer algorithms that can scan a face and look for certain features in order to identify you. And so it's you know, I guess a relatively sophisticated way to identify your face. I like to think that I have a really good superpower of recognizing people's faces. I don't know why. I think maybe maybe it's just in my DNA. But I also like to think that maybe my brain switches into computer mode sometimes, and I can scan certain areas of someone's face, and I can remember that and be like, okay, that jawline, or those brow bones. Right, so maybe I have like some natural and internal algorithm to read people's faces, but this is more along the lines of how technology uses these kinds of algorithms to read or to detect and identify people. And like I said, I think that the larger responsibility here is to think about like how powerful of a tool that is. And especially when you least expect it, cameras, you know, are everywhere. To think that your face can be scanned, and let's say you didn't want to be in some Facebook post. Well, it doesn't matter if you have a picture floating somewhere. Chances are that photo is saved somewhere in some huge database that can pull your information and just kind of identify you even if you don't want to. I know that's happened to me, and I'm not crazy about that. So anyway, what are our options? So that's the question here. What do? You want to protect yourself. You want some of that privacy and don't want your face to be recognized. Well, there is kind of a solution. CV Dazzle. Okay, so what exactly is CV Dazzle? CV Dazzle is basically like a concept that explores how fashion and makeup can be used to camouflage against facial recognition technology. And it does that in a couple of ways. And so this is actually kind of important. While you're looking at the different shapes and colors and things that are covering the model's faces in these pictures, I do want to say a couple of things. CV Dazzle was this amazing like concept that came out over a decade ago, and so these looks that I'm showing you now are not necessarily updated. When the creators first came up with these tricks to hide from facial recognition technology, what happened was they knew the type of software that they were using. In this case, the designs were based off of Viola Jones' face detection algorithms. And so back then, they knew exactly what type of algorithms they were working with, and they were able to work around that, and it was successful. It worked. And I'm going to show you why that worked. But I just wanted to share with you, these looks don't necessarily, they can't trick the facial recognition software nowadays because those are different algorithms. So while these have been successful in the past, it is not true of the present. But I do think that the general idea is pretty amazing. So we can talk a little bit about that as we go through. So let's just take a closer look. I only want to speak for a couple more minutes so that we can get started on our project. Right, in the first picture here, you've got these really cool like electric blue hair extensions covering the left eye. And the reason that's the reason that's put there purposefully is because generally the like facial recognition software is looking for like a symmetric face, right? So you have one eye on the right hand side, presumably you'll have a left eye around the same area. So if you cover the right eye, then it's a little bit harder to detect where the eyes are. That little smear of black makeup under the right eye also kind of distorts the way you can identify where the eyes are in relation to the nose. So that's one interesting way. Now, if you look at the model on the right-hand side, over here, what she does is, I kind of like that she uses her natural hair here to cover one of the eyes. But the model is dark complected. So what she has done is they used a certain application of makeup so that if you have darker skin, you can use white, predominantly white, like a white shape on one side of the eye with some accents of white with dark. And then on the other side, you would do the contrasting color combination. That also kind of not disorients, but it's harder to read. And of course, she obscures the eye and covers it with her really long hair. So that cool loop effect there looks kind of neat. Right, so let me just back up here for a second. I'm going to switch over. Sorry. Right, so anyway, generally speaking, there's a couple of tricks. Again, these are some tricks that would have worked, say, with software 10 years ago. So just to kind of review, if you're using certain colors, if you're darker, for example, you'll use lighter colors, and then whatever you do on one side, you'll kind of copy it on the other, but keeping it asymmetric. So that's important. The other one is covering the eye, so that it's a little bit harder to scan because it's looking for both symmetric eyes, right? And you can play around with all sorts of colors and materials to cover the eye. We saw hair extensions, different color combinations for the makeup smears along the cheeks. The nose bridge is also kind of cool. If you can cover your nose bridge, that also helps blur or scramble the way software would scan your face. Anything else? Yeah, back then they said avoid wearing masks, just stick with regular, hair and makeup applications. But now that no longer applies because most people are wearing masks. So why not use the masks to explore other ways to kind of trick algorithms? So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into our activity today. I do want to quickly show you an example of some students of mine who played around with this idea a while ago. Okay, cool. So here are two of my students who were playing around with their own CV Dazzle Ideas. We had feathers around from a previous activity, so they did feathers. Katie on the left had kind of covered her right eye with some makeup, and she did a little fun dolly mustache. And then our student on the right-hand side used a combination of jewels and feathers and some cool stickers to cover up the other side. So this is a really fun activity, I think, for girls to think about computer science, algorithms, and some makeup and hair effects. Great. So, of course, TechQuitos wouldn't be TechQuitos if I didn't bring it back to kind of like this indigenous knowledge. And what I love about these pictures here is there's some similarities to how you would trick facial recognition software with how indigenous groups applied makeup centuries ago. And so the picture on the left here is of a Mayan person, and I believe this is obviously like a reenactment of a ritual. So these kinds of makeup applications and tricks were, or not tricks, but patterns were used typically either for war or for rituals. On the right-hand side is a picture of a man from the Nuba region of Sudan, which is the Nuba people are like a variation of indigenous ethnic people who live in the Nuba Mountains. And so here you kind of see that interesting contrast of makeup and shapes that obscure the eye, so it breaks it up in a way that is not easily read and asymmetric. So I think that that's interesting. Perhaps, you know, I like to think that my ancestors were playing around with some of, not necessarily the ideas of tricking, but I do think that the idea of camouflaging and blending into certain surroundings through makeup and hair was certainly an idea that's been around and been tinkered with for centuries. So, yeah, so that's cool. All right, guys, let's do this. So, CV Dazzle Shield. So we're going to do our own. I have with me a face shield, as I showed earlier. I'm going to first show you the materials you'll need, and then we're going to quickly do one together. So we got our face shield, construction paper, and tape. Okay. So here we go. My goal here is to figure out how I'm going to cover this part, or use some of those rules. I don't know if you can hear me. Use some of those CV Dazzle tricks to decorate with different shapes of the construction paper or the foam paper that I have. And we'll apply it here and here. So I'm going to just see, okay, here's where my nose is. So I know if I leave my thumb there, there we go. Ugh. I was kind of like smack in the middle of the teddy bear. So I'm going to do, what I'll do here is I want to cover my nose bridge first. So I think the first thing I'd like to do is just a general triangle. So first thing I'm doing again is I'm going to work on the rule where, not the rule, but the trick where you can obscure the nose bridge. And so I'm going to do that with a little piece of double-sided tape. And without putting it on, I'm just going to hold it like this. Does that cover the nose? Does. Looks good to me. Okay. Next thing I want to do, because I am darker skinned, I want to play around with lighter colors. So I want to do a contrast of light and then a little bit of a darker color. So I'm going to go with what kind of shape do I want? Maybe some waves. That might be a little too big. Let me try. Almost looks like a Band-Aid. I want to try to place this a little bit over my cheek or my eye. And then I'm going to probably, I'd like to maybe play around with having something cover my eye like this. So, you know, what's nice about this is that when you use double-sided tape, you can always take it off and reposition it depending on the pattern that you're going for. All right. So, let's go. All right, guys. I see my nose covered with my triangle. This, however, isn't as effective as I'd like. I may have to go with smaller shapes. So let's do that. Let's do a little heart or some sort of cloud. If you have any thoughts, go ahead and add them to the chat room. Personally, I think it's going to be a tough summer with, well, not only because it's super hot, but wearing the masks, that's definitely, I don't know about you guys, but it's hard to breathe when you're wearing masks. So, or at least for me. And so, I don't know what would be better. I feel like a shield would make it more difficult to breathe, but what's nice is that you really can you can go crazy with decorations. I'm sure you guys have seen some really cool face masks that just cover the nose and the mouth, but I have yet to see any cool, you know, face shields. So we could really be trending. We could be the next trend in face shields. Okay, by the way, so I'm going to add some more features here, and then I'm going to test it on my phone. Let me see here. I'm just realizing. Okay, so when I first tried this out with my students, what we did was we would apply some makeup, put some feathers or whatever, and then we would test on our iPhone so that we could see whether or not it was working. And for the most part, it was hard. So your phone, generally, when you're taking a picture, it will, you'll see a box appear around the frame of your face. And so in this case, we would test it out. And in some instances, it was really hard for the phone to try to, for the square, the framing square to appear. So that must mean we were doing something right. Okay, guys, so I am going with kind of this I'm going with this splatter effect, and I kind of like the idea of liquid, so I'm going to go with this splatter effect, then I'm going to do a drip around one of my eyes, and then we're going to test it out. And if I like it, then we will wrap up. Oh my gosh, my neighbor's playing some really loud music. All right. Okay. All right, I kind of like that. Okay. What do you guys think? So it's kind of like both my eyes are being covered. I have a small face, so, so it's not easy to cover my whole face with a hand or a shape like this. Okay, my next one is a drip. I'm going to do a drip effect. Let's go with purple. Purple looks fun. Okay. Alrighty. All right. All right, guys. I hope this looks like a drip to you. One of my favorite T-shirts has this it's a band T-shirt that has a keyboard that just looks like it's melting, and it's pretty groovy. I like it. I like that effect. Seems to be kind of like a very interesting artistic style too. I don't see it just on T-shirts, but a lot of different types of art. Okay, guys, so coming close here. All right, my drips are ready. So let's go ahead and play with a little drip. I'm looking back at what the people have done, the models did with their lips. What I have seen is the lips have, for the most part, just do whatever they do. They're just there. They're not really, what do you call it? They're not really in the way. They're not accented, with at least with the two examples that I had. So, okay, guys. So here is my my mask. I have something obscuring the right eye or the left eye. This hopefully will cover the bridge of my nose. And because I'm dark skinned, I'm using this color combination of light and dark under my, my right eye to play around with that idea too. And of course it's not symmetric, so that's the other kind of trick to CV Dazzle. All right, here you go. Hope you guys can still recognize me. I'm gonna have to look really close into the camera. Can you see my nose, my eye? Because I can't. Okay, so sorry, that's gonna get really loud. I apologize. What I'd like to do now, I'm gonna talk quieter. I'm gonna go ahead and oh yeah. Guys, we have a winner. Actually, this needs to be moved further in. But I'm going to show you my proof. So, oh, I guess you wouldn't be able to see it, but when I took a picture right now, it could be a variety of reasons, but there's a bit of a shine to the surface of the shield. So the framing square that I was referring to when you're going to take a picture, that did not appear when I was about to do my selfie. So, you know, by my account, I think I won. I think I did this. I just have to do this. So I've got to move this part of my cheek closer in just because it was almost all the way off my face. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to try one more. And I think that might be it. Okay. Hopefully this is the last test. Let's see here. All right. Okay, guys. It's still a little bit off. But I don't think you can see this eye. You can't see my nose. And my cheek is slightly covered. So, guess what? We just did a fun CV Dazzle shield. So that was our project for today. I want to encourage our viewers that if you're tuning in for the first time, definitely continue playing with this idea. I think what's really neat too is just if you research CV Dazzle, you'll also see some amazing examples of how, you know, even nature can inspire us to create patterns and to kind of blend in or trick, you know, people. I think that nature definitely keeps finding ways to outsmart its predators or its environments, and so yeah, I think that there's a great connection to nature too. And with that said, if you live in the Sunset Park area, I'm going to be starting a birders club, a young birders club. It's geared for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, and we're going to use some really cool technology to be bird detectives and learn a little bit about how we can identify birds, learn a little bit more about like their tricks, and how they survive in their habitats, and even some camouflage tricks from them. So you can email me at hello@sunsetspark.org. And if you have any ideas or if you really enjoyed a class, drop us a line. Again, that's hello@sunsetspark.org. We would love to hear from you. But if we don't, I hope you have a fantastic summer. And hopefully, if we launch some new programs, you'll join us back here again. So this is Yadira signing off from the Sunset Spark headquarters. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye. Mm-hmm.